So, hello everybody, I'm Mayor Jim Durrett, Montgomery County Mayor, and I'd like to welcome you to another one of our Spotlight series where we shine the spotlight on people that make Montgomery County work as good as it does. And I have with me today not only a good personal friend, but a person that I think a whole lot of, and one of our general sessions and juvenile judges, Judge Ken Goble. Judge?
Mayor?
How are you?
I'm great, thank you.
Good to see you. Good to see you. So I can ask you questions I can't ask a whole lot of other people.
And you might not get the answer you want.
Yeah, you're exactly right. But really, I want to start off just letting everybody know a little bit about Ken Goble.
Well, I'm a husband, a father of 5. I'm an Army brat. I've been here since 1975. My dad retired from the Army here, and I've kind of bounced around trying to find myself, and own a business, D&D shirt printers, shameless plug. And I started practicing law. I went to law school at night, and started practicing law in 1998, and did that for a while, and then was fortunate enough to get elected as General Sessions Judge in 2010. So that's the Reader's Digest version.
Yeah. So I want to talk to you about law school and all that, but I want to go back. Your dad was a great guy.
Yeah.
He was a great guy.
As was yours.
Well, thank you. And I got to know your dad after I met you. I think we met playing softball.
We did.
And that was probably in what, mid 80s, late 80s?
Early mid 80s.
Yeah. That's just a couple of years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So your dad never was stationed here though?
No, he was.
Okay.
He retired as First Sergeant of Medak back in '78, and then he did real estate for a while, and I started my first business, and he ultimately ended up going to work for me.
Yeah, I knew he did. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But you never lived in Clarksville till y'all moved here in what, the 70s, you said?
Well, we moved back in '75. In the early '70s, we were here for about a year.
Yeah.
And then he got assigned to Germany, and then we came back. He asked
Yeah,
to come back here.
that was back in the military. I mean, you were lucky to stay somewhere for a year.
Yeah.
Or 2 years was really max.
It's a lot different.
Yeah,
now.
a lot different now. Yeah. Now, I know you're still a huge supporter of the military, and I want to talk about that a little bit. But I want to talk about, so you come back, you go to law school. What started that?
Well, so it took me 17 years to get through college. I may be the record holder on that. I finished high school in '77, started Austin P, and I played baseball. I walked on the baseball team, and that's why I was there, and I got hurt, and once I got hurt, I stopped going to school, got married, and then I just started chipping away at school, and I got done in 1994 from Austin P, and I thought, well, okay, what am I going to do with this? And I thought about a master's degree, and there was no application that I could think of, but I thought law school would help me with my business. Had no intention of becoming an attorney, much less a judge. And it
No
just,
kidding.
Really, no, I never thought about being an attorney when I started law school. So the rest is kind of history.
So did you go to law school in Nashville?
Nashville School of Law.
And did that at night?
I did, 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then you get your law degree, and when you started, you like, maybe this can be good for my business. And so at some point in time, I'm sure you just started practicing law?
Well, during law school, I decided, okay, I might enjoy doing this.
Yeah.
And because I owned a business, I had more revenue or resources than most attorneys starting out of law school. And I bought the old Goldberg and Smith furniture business building downtown. No experience as an attorney. Spent a lot of money renovating that building, and just hung out my shingle. And I was fortunate enough to to be smart enough to ask people questions, to not think that I knew it all.
Yeah.
And had a lot of people kind enough to help me. And then Roger Nell and I went into a partnership, and that's where I really started really learning about the law and how to practice
Yeah.
it. So now he's the public defender.
Yeah, and so then you're just like, hey, gonna run for judge?
Well, yeah, I practiced law for 12 years before I got elected, and
And you got elected when?
2010.
2010.
So I've never been the kind that has sought out jobs where I thought the person in the position was doing a good job. But in this instance, I felt like there was room for improvement, and I've always had a hankering for public service.
Mm-hmm.
I was president of AUSA for 2 years during Desert Storm. I was president of the Governors Club for a year. I did some private sector public service work.
Right.
And I enjoyed it. I mean, it's very rewarding, and I decided that I was bold enough to think that I might be able to do a better job than the guy that was sitting in the position. And I ran, and the first time I ran against him, and I lost. But then he passed away in office. The county commission appointed another person.
Right.
And I ran against her, and I was fortunate enough to win.
Yeah.
So it's
Those political campaigns aren't fun, are they?
no, they're bittersweet.
They are.
People
That's an awesome word for them.
the people that you run into, that you meet, that you are able to learn about, that's very enjoyable, and it helps you appreciate. Sometimes it helps you appreciate how good you've got it.
Yeah.
But it's difficult. I mean, long hours, family sacrifices, a lot of multiple meals in the day that somebody offers you you can't say no.
Exactly.
And standing on the corner down there at Paget Lane, waving at people going by in the midsummer heat is difficult. But
Yeah.
it was worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Do you remember your first day on the bench?
Oh yeah, yeah. It was
Nervous?
A little bit, but that's the court I practiced in my whole 12 years
Yeah.
as an attorney, so I was familiar with it. I was comfortable in that setting. So I'm going to share two stories, if that's okay. One, I asked Roger Freeman to come pray for us, and that was a very meaningful part of the
Yeah.
swearing-in ceremony. But then Judge Wayne Shelton, who is retiring next week, he had some words of wisdom for me. He said, when you're on the bench and you got the robe on and you got to go to the bathroom, make sure you unzip it all the way. That of all the things he could have told me about being a judge, that's what his advice was. And
Sounds just like you.
It does.
Yeah, sounds just like you.
So.
Yeah, so I know, and you mentioned Judge Shelton, and I know we've got Judge Grimes, Judge Barnes, yourself. Y'all kind of do different things, sort of, don't you?
Sure.
Like you'll hear more of one type of case than maybe somebody else, but you all have a juvenile aspect as well.
Right. So I hear primarily criminal cases, except for my juvenile day and my Veterans Treatment Court day. Judge Shelton does a lot of civil stuff. Judge Grimes, Judge Shelton, and I hear criminal matters. Judge Barnes, he's exclusively juvenile.
Right.
He has jurisdiction to hear criminal adult cases, but he is so busy with his cases, dependency and neglect cases, child custody cases. There's really just no time for him to do anything else. Judge Shelton, as I said, does civil. Judge Grimes does a little bit of civil. She does the orders of protection, and then we all do some juvenile.
Yeah.
So it's.
So most of your stuff is criminal.
Right.
So is that, thank goodness, most of my experience of a courtroom is watching it on TV.
Right.
So is that like armed robberies, those type things?
It's everything from public intoxication to murder.
Really?
Yeah. Now keep in mind that we just do the preliminary hearing
Right,
phase
right,
and the murder
right,
stuff,
right,
felony stuff.
Right.
But we touch most cases that go through the court system.
Yeah. Y'all touch a lot of cases too,
We do.
don't you?
Probably 100 to 200 cases a day.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy,
Yeah.
just the volume.
And the pace is pretty intense too.
It is.
I mean,
It
you're
is.
up there and you're calling the next case, and that one could be maybe adjudicated or something happens. It takes it 2 minutes.
The next person up is right up behind them.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like herding cats.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
So,
Wow. So you talked about you do juvenile one day, you do criminal most of the time, and then you do veterans treatment court. Let's talk about veterans treatment court.
okay.
Yeah. Number one, it's just phenomenal. I think I've probably missed a couple of graduations since I've been mayor, but I just want you to talk about it. Talk about how it came about and just where we are today.
Well, it came about, Judge Ray Grimes had responsibility for the recovery court, and he had a publication that talked about veterans treatment courts, and he gave me the article and said, you ought to think about this. He knew my history, he knew,
Yeah.
that I'd been involved in the military a lot, and so I looked at it. They were doing grants for training. We went to Buffalo, New York. I gathered a team, 10 people, public defender, DA, probation, and some other folks. And we all went to Buffalo, New York, where the first veterans treatment court started. And they trained us. We came back, and 10 years ago, next month, we started a veterans treatment court.
No kidding. So anniversary next month.
That's right.
10 years.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, and we've got myself, Gene Lewis, and Johnny Clark are the 3 of the original 10. So we've actually got 3 people that started with us 10 years ago, which is pretty impressive.
Sure is.
Because it's all volunteer.
Yeah.
Everybody that does it from the team aspect doesn't get paid extra, they just show up.
Yeah.
And then we've got the group of mentors. It's a recovery court for active duty soldiers and veterans that become justice involved, get in trouble, and we bring them in and we determine what kind of treatment they need. They are married up with a mentor, a veteran who volunteers, and they start this year-long program, and they are put on a curfew, adult men and women that have an 8 o'clock curfew. They're in court once a week, they're in case management once a week, and they have to do self-helps, active minds initiatives is what we call it, which means they go to AA or they go to something that helps their situation. And so for the first 2 months, we're in their business almost every day.
Yeah.
And then we back off a little bit, and they get a little later curfew, they get a little less time in court, and at the end of 12 months, if they've done everything they're supposed to, they ultimately have their charges most of the time just reduced. They don't get them dismissed generally.
Yeah.
But they have some reduction, and they can have it, most times have it expunged from the record, so they come out with a clean slate.
And so that could mean for somebody that's active duty, being able to stay in the Army.
Yeah, and a lot of times,
Yeah.
they come into a program and their unit has started the chapter process, and once they find out how the program works and what the outcomes can be, they'll stop the chapter process, and we've had quite a few soldiers that actually get promoted while they're in our program. That's how how valuable the program is to our active duty folks.
That is so awesome.
Yeah.
And so, Judge, how many people can y'all have in your program at one time?
Well, we haven't figured out a way to say no. We started with, a handful.
Yeah.
And gradually increased, and with that, and with your support, we've increased our case managers and things of that nature. But we are over 100 people now. Wow. Which is challenging.
Yeah.
But it's these folks need our help, and the public needs us to be involved in their lives so that when they're on the backside, they can be productive members of our community.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I know that recently you had a pretty historic graduation where Governor Lee came down, which I think was awesome. But I have to say this: he was good, but to hear the graduates that's the best part about it.
It's hard to trump their stories.
You know, President Biden, Trump, whoever could have been at that podium, and it would have been nice, and it'd been pretty cool. But to hear those graduates come up and tell their story, and to tell them, and to hear them say that, you know, this program changed my life. This program saved my life. This program saved my marriage. It saved my kids. I mean, and almost every single one of them, those are the words that come out of their mouth. Y'all don't put those words in their mouth.
They write their own essays, and it's moving when you know how many people were contemplating, you know, taking their own life, or their marriage was just toast, and when they stopped drinking, when they identified what their what got them going, and changed the way they lived their life, how much everything else just falls into place. But I mean, you're right. The movies or the stories are moving. Whoever the speaker is, they really kind of take a back seat to the people that are graduating. And it's not, I say graduation, we don't graduate anybody, we move them to phase 5, which we call VTC for life.
Mm-hmm.
So anybody that's been through our program always has the ability to come back if they're hit a rough patch.
Yeah.
Or sometimes they just come back and tell us how well they're doing. You know, that they just graduated from college, or they've got this new great job. So it's really nice when we have folks come back that are phase 5ers.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, it's just I don't know. I hear some of them talk too about, well, you know, I really started this program and it really wasn't doing much for me, and I just didn't think it was going to work, and I had a little hiccup, and I realized, hey, these folks are serious. Yeah, I mean, it is just it. I promise you, I'm getting chill bumps thinking about those stories. Yeah. And y'all just do such an awesome job. And almost every single one of them will they'll thank you, but all of them typically thank their mentor.
Yeah, their mentor and their case managers. Yeah. I will tell you that Ed Moss and John Bazzano and Josh Forbes and Katie Castle and Tiffany Anderson are 5 of the best employees you've got in this county.
They're rock stars.
They really are. They don't come to work because they're getting paid. I mean, that's part of it, obviously. But they come motivated every day to make a difference in somebody's life, and they do on a daily basis. They're great.
Awesome. So spinning it a little bit, typical day. Is there a typical day? I mean, I guess there is, because you're on the bench, but
well, Mondays, Tuesday mornings, Wednesdays, Thursday afternoon, and Friday mornings I have criminal, and then Veterans Treatment Court is on Tuesday afternoons. That takes up a whole afternoon, and then on Thursday mornings I do juvenile court. And the 2 most trying days that I have, or 2 most trying sessions I have, are juvenile and Veterans Treatment Court, because honestly, that's where the most opportunity to make a difference is, in those 2 courts.
Yeah.
You know, criminal court, unless they move to a recovery court, it's kind of doing the same thing over and over. You have some people that have one hiccup and they're never going to be back, and then you have some people you see, you know, it's a revolving door.
Yeah. The golly, you said something, and so this may not be a fair question to ask you, but so you walk in on Monday morning, all rise, you take your seat at the bench, first case comes up there and somebody just pops off wrong. Can that just kind of start your whole week, or your whole, like, that session of court? It would be. Yeah, it would be.
But you go in with a different mindset, because you kind of expect there to be some idiots out there.
Yeah.
You know, most of the folks that come through the court, they're very respectful, but every now and then we got one that just can't figure it out, and that's why I have deputies. You know, the deputies pretty much take care of that.
Yeah.
And I like to I pat myself on the back all the time. When I'm done with one case, I move on to the next case. I don't stay.
Don't linger.
I don't linger. And I hope the attorneys appreciate that. You know, I'll kid sometimes when somebody's been done, and the next person up, I ask them how they like their timing and stuff like that. But they get it.
Yeah. That's awesome. So, what would you? And this, I know this is hard because of just the role of a judge, but what would you say is one of the most gratifying experiences you've had since you've been on the bench? And you don't have to use a specific example, but
I actually have one.
Okay.
And this is, I mean, there's a lot, especially with Veterans Treatment Court, but this one actually has to do with juvenile court. I had a young man, when he came, he filed a motion to waive cost. And he was about 22, 23. He said, Judge, I get emotional thinking about it now, and I cried that day. But he said, last time I was in here, you sent me through that door, the side door, which is where the detention is. He said, you got my attention. He said, and since then, I've graduated from college and I'm starting law school, but they need me to have my record expunged, and I can't do it with the cost. It's still out there.
wow.
And I mean, the problem with being a judge is most of the time when you've made a difference in somebody's life, you'll never see it.
Yeah.
Which is okay.
Yeah.
But I got to see.
Yeah.
An
Right there,
example
front and center.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think his name was Artrice Prey. And just a great kid. He came and interned with us for a while after that. And by now I expect he's graduated from law school.
Wow.
He sent me a letter and said, thanks for all you've done. He said, but when I get done with law school, you better be looking over your shoulder because one day I'm going to take your job.
What a great story.
Yeah, it really is.
What a great story. What a great story. So last question. Weren't born and raised here, but lived here, you call Clarksville home.
Yeah.
And before I ask that, I do want to say, I want to thank you because I said I would talk about this, but obviously what you do with Veterans Treatment Court, but there's so many functions out at Fort Campbell, a lot of the general public doesn't know about. I mean, they have these change of commands, they have ceremonies, they have all of it, and I see you out there, and you're probably there a lot more than I am, but just thank you for, and I know your dad served, and it's in your blood to support them, but you walk the walk. You don't necessarily, I'm not saying you don't talk the talk, but you walk the walk, and that's important. Yeah.
Well, since you're throwing compliments out there, I need to thank you, because but for you and your support, Veterans Treatment Court wouldn't be where it is today. It really wouldn't. You know, you've made sure that we've had support for case managers, and you've been there as much as you can be there. You can take credit for a big part of why the court is successful.
Well, that's awfully nice of you to say, but I don't take any credit. But, so you leave here and you bump into somebody, you're going in to get groceries and whatever, and you find out, you don't know them, and you find out, hey, they're thinking about moving to Clarksville, they're not from here. Why does Judge Ken Goble tell somebody, hey, you ought to make Montgomery County your home?
I think it's the same reason we made it our home as people. I mean, there's a lot of nice things, especially now going on. We got here in the 70s, and it hasn't changed. People are warm, they're friendly. They'll help you when you're down. I've been a lot of places, and I've never been in a community that's so giving. And when I say giving, I'm not just talking about individuals, I'm talking about organizations.
Yeah.
You know, shoot, we are in the best place we've been since I've been here. Between you and Mayor Joe Pitts, you have done, and you and the county government and the city government have done everything they can to make our community the best that it can be. And because of that, I think a couple years ago, we were the #1 city in the United States. But we have so many amenities here, and then on top of that, we're close to even more. You know, with Nashville, and I mean, not just Nashville, but Paducah and other communities where if you can't find what you want here, it's close by.
Yeah.
And cost of living is a lot lower than the bigger cities, and it's just there's very little missing. It's just there's just a lot to enjoy.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Judge, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.